welcome back, and we're going to jump right into it tonight as we got a special guest on, another Mkultra survivor victim, Marc Victor, along with his friend Marina Louw from South Africa. So let's sit in really close because they have a lot to say. Hey guys, this is Paul of the Mysterious Huntsman Podcast. How are you doing, Marina?
I'm good, thank you, Paul.
And Marc, how are you doing?
Very well.
Absolutely wonderful. How about you?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you guys joining us. I know, Marina, you're, if it's okay to say where you are, and Marc, I know you're in the U.S. somewhere, so thank you for coming out.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm in South Africa, and Marc is in California.
I'm sorry, Marina, you said where?
South Africa, close to Johannesburg.
Okay, beautiful.
I live in Pretoria, close to Johannesburg. So hence my accent.
Nice, very nice. Well, guys, I know, Marina, you heard a podcast of mine just a few days ago, and you reached out to me, and it had to do with Mkultra, with Ellen Atkin, and you reached out to me, and I appreciate that so much that you had another survivor story, and I'm just thankful that you guys come on, wanted to tell your story, so I'll let you take it away. You can be my co-host tonight.
Okay. Okay, I will be. We just thought also the story needs to be told, because there are many other people in the same situation, and these people's lives were influenced in the most horrific ways, I think. And if one can just tell the story, and maybe there could be help out there some way. But let's ask Marc to start telling where it all started, because it's his story and he can tell it. I can ask questions, but let him just start at the start. Marc, you were small. What happened? When did you start? Mkultra 101, that people can know, because not everybody knows what it is, because it was so long ago. People don't really today know what is Mkultra, brainwashing.
Well, to start off of the reason why I ended up in the program, to start off on a humorous note, sort of, on my brother's 5th birthday on October 17th, when I was 2 3/4, I was on the top of a 20-foot slide waving to my mother and father, and my older brother had one of those sibling rivalry moments and decided to push me off. And that's why I humorously say I was attempting to fly, because I flew off and landed on my head on cement and had a skull fracture and a brain injury that ended up leading me to be in the medical program to fix me at Stanford University, and available to be transferred into the program in Mkultra. And I ended up from 1957 to 1969 part of the program, ending up at a school called Highfields Farm, which is where there was 13 students that lived at Highfields Farm for 10 months, and all 13 of the kids were part of the Mkultra program. And all 13 of us went 3 days a week to Stanford University on the campus. Officially, it was and wasn't on the campus. It was across the street from the campus in where SDI is, Stanford Research Institute. SRI, I'm sorry. So what ended up happening is I quickly went from trying to fix my brain to giving me LSD. Excuse me, giving me LSD and putting me on electroshock tables and shocking me, unconscious. And what they were trying to obtain is to create such an emotional reaction from your brain that your brain tries to protect itself by making a secondary personality. So then what they would do is they would take that personality and they would program it with the skills and attributes such as Jason Bourne. And the scenes where Jason Bourne says, I don't know why I can do all of these things, run a mile flat out, I can do this and that and all of these amazing things, and I don't know why I position myself, in a room to have my back to an exterior wall with multiple exits, and I don't know why, this and that. And one of the scenes that's so profoundly riveted into my brain is picture this entire wall that's nothing but flat panels with built-in machines, and each one of the separate machines is a separate EKG machine with a huge wire harness going to the person's head, with a leather helmet over their head, with the separate holes for them to glue the separate sensors all over your head in order to be measuring what's going on in your brain. As all these kids in this room are watching this television and mesmerized by what's on the screen. And what was on the screen was static. And what was going on is they were being programmed with this subliminal programming that was underneath that static. That wasn't affecting their conscious, that was affecting their subconscious. And when they were hypnosed under the state of that personality that was just created, that information is programming those skills and attributes. You know, I always wondered why I was able to learn things weirdly fast. And it was like I already knew them. And a lot of them are in martial arts, but a lot of them are in other, fields. And it's like fucking bizarre. But the reality is what happened is all those kids were being programmed. I can still feel the sandpaper pad on the end of like a pencil that they would sand the top of your skull in order to use this coarse, grainy glue to glue those sensors, 60 to 70 of them, that you'd be picking that stuff out of your hair and head until the next time they glued them down. Hence the reason why they kept no hair growing on those spots, is because they were going to be used often. And to pride myself, I ended up refusing to go into a rage because they started shocking me and telling me the people in the other room are laughing at you. And they wanted me to go into a rage and want to get into such a rage, I wanted to go in there and kill them. And I wouldn't allow them to do it. And they kept shocking me into unconsciousness and eventually into epileptic seizures. You want to talk about a child's bizarre pride. That's one of the things I'm proud about, is because you can ask me to do something and you know this, that a non-Native American won't understand this. You can ask me to do something and I will run through a fucking wall for you. Tell me to do something and good fucking luck. Marina, you know that about me kind of, don't you?
Oh, God, yes.
So somebody just tried to steal my show from me. The trilogy that's called Up Against It. Now, this television show is called The Valley Inside Mkultra. And it tells the story from that inside perspective. And it goes on into Iran-Contra. And it goes to a profound moment, not only in Honduras, but also in North Africa, which was on the rescue mission for the hostages that were taken in 1979. And the Inside Mkultra tells those stories, but those stories are also told in the trilogy of that world takeover, which is Up Against It, which is, Marina will tell you, go ahead, a pretty incredible story.
But Mark, yes, we can tell the story, but can't we just start maybe the beginning and telling us first so that we can get to that in a chronological thing? Up Against It, but tell us a bit about your days as a child. Where did you grow up? How it happened? How you went to school high on LSD?
Picture Palo Alto. Yes. Palo Alto is on the South Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area. And right over the hill, 12 miles from it, is the Santa Cruz Mountains and the Redwood Forest and a valley that's called the San Lorenzo Valley. And the mad scientists that were brought over from World War II that were Operation Paperclip agents, that came over that were hiding for crimes against humanity, like Werner von Braun.
Right.
Werner von Braun, does this qualify for an execution? Werner had a meeting with Adolf, and he said, "Hey, Adolf, buddy, old friend, old pal, I'm on your board and one of your henchmen. Instead of killing those Jews, why don't you allow me to work them to death in slave labor camps? Digging out those tunnels so I can build my rockets to kill more Americans and British and other people." So when he saw that it was beneficial to turncoats, that's what most people call frickin' snakes, he chose to take, what did he get? He ended up founding NASA, having an absolute idyllic life, and is thought of as this noble, wonderful person, this crusading, and went on and on and on. And he's a fucking Nazi. And what took us to the moon was Nazi equipment. And all the people that were brought into the San Lorenzo Valley to run Mkultra were the Nazi scientists that were running Mkultra for Stanford University in Germany before World War II and during World War II. Stanford University, through their eugenics people, and the people that ran Stanford University were all of the California eugenicists. And all those California eugenicists are the ones that were having personal relationships and building medical facilities for the Germans after World War I, that were in bed with E.H. Harriman, the person that took over the United States military before World War I and created World War I. If you want to watch a fascinating movie, watch Sarajevo on Netflix. It's a story of what caused World War I to happen. The whole fallacy story is Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated on the streets of Yugoslavia. Here's the reality. He was going to have a parade procession, and he ended up having his security team broadcast the parade procession, even though there was instability in Yugoslavia. There were assassins. They tried to assassinate him. They missed. So they take him back to a castle into a secure environment. And what's the security team do? Put him back in the car and take him back on the parade procession and stop in front of the assassins this time. They didn't miss. The investigator, a Jew, proved, even though they had taken his girlfriend hostage until he signed, the statement stating who really caused, this assassination. He proved that the conspiracy was to build a railroad from Berlin to Baghdad, Iraq. Now, on a side note, you have to realize the reason why the Germans lost World War I and World War II is they didn't have enough fuel. The resource that the Germans were trying to bring in was fuel. The baron of railroads at the time was the person who was funding the eugenics movement all over the world, E.H. Harriman. The person who was going to build that railroad before World War I, there was the creation of World War I as the vehicle to take over Yugoslavia, which was in the way of putting the railroad in. So the whole vehicle of World War I was to have a 6-week war, and this is proven in the movie Sarajevo, a 6-week war, take over Yugoslavia, and 90% of everything used on both sides during World War I was manufactured by E.H. Harriman companies. That he had taken over all of those gun manufacturers 3 years before World War I happened, and he took over them, and he forced the sale, and probably gangster-like Donald Trump, exactly probably like that, just like this Ukraine thing, nothing like being a gangster when you're the president of the United States. So what ended up happening is he was going to make money on being a warmonger, selling those warring goods. He was going to put it in a railroad, and he was going to end up taking over the largest country in Europe.
Wow.
And he did that. Now, to prove my point, after World War I is over, if E.H. Harriman didn't have control of the military, how did he end up taking control of the most powerful asset the Germans had, the American Hamburg steam line? All 76 ships were given to E.H. Harriman, and he used it to bankrupt Germany, create an unstable environment, which was the perfect breeding ground for Nazism to take hold. Harriman was the first funder of Adolf Hitler even before he was part of the Nazi Party. Him and Thyssen, the Thyssen industry was the largest iron manufacturer in the world at the time. Thyssen was told by Harriman, you know, you were a dumb motherfucker before World War I. All your money was tied up in Germany. He said, you need to just diversify. And Harriman and Thyssen created a bank called Union Bank. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
At Union Bank in 1943 was shut down by J. Edgar Hoover. And J. Edgar Hoover proved that Union Bank had been used for 20 years as a vehicle to build up the Nazi regime. The president and the CEO of Union Bank will shock the fuck out of you. E.H. Harriman's son, Averill Harriman, was the CEO, and the name of the president will floor you. His name is Prescott Bush. George H.W. Bush's father.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure.
And those cronies were all skull and bonesers, and all had been running all of the fucking assets, because here's E.H. Harriman's number one role that most of the people didn't listen to. Don't be the puppet, be the puppeteer. He considered politicians the puppets. Don't have the ego need to be the politician in front of that podium. Be the person that's playing that bitch like a puppet, which is a puppeteer.
But now tell us, how does that link to MK Ultra?
MK Ultra was started in Germany by a gentleman called Dr. Mengele.
Right.
In a medical facility that was built on the grounds that would eventually become Auschwitz.
He was known as Dr.
Fairly profound.
Wasn't he known as Dr.
Doctor of
Death?
Death.
Yeah.
The Doctor of Death, because everybody he experimented on died. He took twins to see what would happen when he put different colored dye in their eyes. I mean, the guy was a crazy motherfucker. But here's a background story. All of that was to misdirect us from the mind control program, which was going on at the same time the misdirect was going on. Because here's the terrifying thing that happened in Stanford and MK Ultra, is when there's no oversight, which was happening in Auschwitz, you end up having even more dastardly things than, just the experiments, such as the raping of kids and everything else. Because if there's no oversight and you're doing experiments on kids, sick Germans that hate Jewish boys, and I'm pointing at myself, are a perfect target for an insane motherfucking scientist that's experimenting on you to rape.
Mm. Didn't Mengele
tell us about?
Was Mengele part of Operation Paperclip? Wasn't he brought over here as well?
Dr. Mengele was part of MK Ultra at Stanford University.
So he was brought over during Paperclip. Or was he?
Dr. Mengele, here's a crazy thing. They had this show called Search for Adolf Hitler, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, you saw it, done by that Tim Kennedy, which I used to really respect the hell out of, and then he become a Trumpy. And they ended up proving, and here's the thing that bothers me about this show, which I really enjoy. Why is it that you're a retired CIA agent and you get to unredact information and the rest of the world doesn't get that? And then you get to act like a cock rooster and strut around your TV show displaying that you have inside information the rest of us can't get. Secondly, that information proved that the FBI and eventually the CIA knew that all of the Nazis, including Hitler, were in South America, and they knew specifically where they were, and that they were trying to create a nuclear bomb. Why didn't the world know about that? Why didn't they go after them? And I can tell you, because the real Nazis were the Harrimans, which I'm telling you, when eugenics was used to create the Nazis, the modern eugenicists were funded by E.H. Harriman, and hence the reason why I call him the modern eugenicist, because without his money, there is no worldwide movement, because that takes coin. You know, it takes coin to go incite hate. It takes coin to destabilize the economy of Germany after World War I, to create World War II. You know, all those things were pre-planned and packaged by, to quote the Monterey Circle, by that organizational takeover. Now, I don't think that worldwide takeover really happened more than taking over the United States. Because here's one of the profound things. What a blue-collar worker made in 1900 take home was more than a blue-collar worker makes now.
Mark?
The concentration of wealth now is, it was 7 to 10% of the population in the United States held 90% of the wealth. Now it's 95% of the wealth in the United States is controlled by less than 1% of the population. So all of this is an interplay, and it's connected to all of that. The world takeover never happened except the concentration of wealth and those wealthy motherfuckers that meet in Northern California in their little gay-ass fucking redwood little, you know, a compound. All the wealthy motherfuckers on the planet planning what? What do you think? To concentrate the wealth more. Those are all the same people that are the same replacement cronies for the people that were happening in the 1900s.
And you're talking about,
now, do I think
you're talking about the Bohemian Grove?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having an education, dog. Man, you're impressive as shit.
You know, I was out in San Francisco just a few weeks ago for work, and I was able to go to the Muir National Forest, which is across the bridge. Got to hike those woods and everything. And that I was only probably an hour and a half away from the Bohemian Grove area, and some of the people I were with, we didn't have time to go up there because it was getting late, but I was dying to get up there and try to hike around, or at least see what I could see up there, because that's an amazing, crazy place, and there's crazy, insane stuff that goes on there.
You want me to make it even crazier?
Yeah.
Because the Bohemian Grove happened, and Sutter's Mill was, you know, all of a sudden discovered gold, they hunted Indians. It's the reason why there's no reservations on the coast of California.
Oh.
They hunted Indians until 1850. And you know the insidiousness that happened in California with the Native Americans is profound. You know, they didn't bother with signing treaties that weren't even signed by the Native Americans. They gave us poison blankets profoundly. It's the reason why the largest concentration of Native American tribes before Columbus showed up was in America. The least populated Native American tribes in the United States is in California. I mean, the largest population of Native American tribes was in California before Columbus, and the least population now is in California. So the Native Americans before Columbus showed up was almost 300 million Native Americans in North, Central, and South America. There's less than, 3.5 million Native Americans in the United States, and less than 12 million Native Americans in all of the Americas now. That's called the definition of genocide. And that's all connected to eugenics, because eugenicists believe that anybody but translucent skinned motherfuckers are 3/5 of a human being. that need to be sterilized, and hence the communications between the Stanford University eugenicists and Germans before World War II and during World War II were, I'm sterilizing more people than you. And then the Germans are going, well, we're not sterilizing people anymore. We're killing them. Ha, 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 ha. And the Stanford people were jealous. And Dr. Terman, his son took being the Dr. Terman was the founder of the California eugenicist movement. The person that ran Stanford University, his son Frederick, went from wanting to sterilize people. Frederick wanted to kill them. So, the father wants to sterilize, the son wants to kill, in harmony with Adolf Hitler. So the real Nazis are American moguls that poisoned the world with their eugenics. So the reason why we didn't go after those Germans in South America after World War II was we didn't want them to expose the Americans that were in bed with them. The United States 20 years ago was supposed to release all the people that were in bed with the Nazis. They've extended that to about 20 years from now. And the reason is because of the Bushes, the Harrimans, and Brown Brothers and Harriman.
Okay, Mark, can I ask you something? This is the history.
And everything I've said, it can be proven with fact, evidence.
Yes. But I would like the story about Marc Victor, the real person, after the history of all this. This is the background. Tell us the real life person that other people can identify with. Like, long story
short, I woke up on a C-130 refueler being called Bob Jansen, and didn't know where I was, didn't know what I was supposed to be doing there, and I was watching soldiers burn alive. And just a background note, when one of the toughest motherfuckers on the planet is burning alive, you'd be shocked what they're screaming. They're screaming for their mommy. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And after that, they knew I was compromised. And I was, because what it's called bleed through, where they had tested you at that point where when you were on a mission, there wasn't bleed through from the personality they created to your real personality. So you would have plausible deniability. You would know anything happened, during that mission. And if you want a background analogy of what I'm talking about, this hypnotist that's pretty damn talented, his name is Dr. Silver. He does a lot of TV show things. He did this weekend thing with 200 people and hypnotized them, and didn't use creating a multiple personalities and 13 years and everything else. What he did is just over a weekend, just uses simple hypnotism to create an assassin. And what happened is he whittled the 200 people down to 4. Then the four one by one were told, you're going to get into a 104-degree jacuzzi that's incredibly wonderful. And they were convinced that this jacuzzi they're getting into was absolutely wonderful. The jacuzzi was full of ice. They got in, and all 4 of them, the first one lasted 15 minutes. But at first, the motherfucker was sweating when he got in. Second person that got in lasted longer. Third person got in, lasted a little longer. Last person had to be taken out for his safety. And he was sweating even getting out. Now, they said to the dude, and you can go online and see this. Just put Dr. Silver and the assassin on a YouTube search or a Google search. And so the dude on the long version of the show, the dude was told, now the guy is just finishing up after getting out of the tub and showering, and somebody comes in and says, Dr. Silver wants to say thank you to you. Now, the way that everybody was hypnotized originally, one by one, was going and being introduced to Dr. Silver. And the moment that they were shaking hands with Dr. Silver, he put him under. So the moment that the guy thinks he's going to go shake everybody's hand and say thank you and goodbye, Dr. Silver puts him under again and says, you're going to go downstairs. There's a motorcycle with a backpack on it. You're going to grab the backpack and you're going to walk over to the rope procession. You're going to pull out a picture, and the person in that picture, he said, as soon as you identify the person in that picture, you're going to put the picture back in the backpack. You're going to reach in and you're going to put your hand on the gun, and the moment that the person in the picture comes out of that door, you're going to pull the gun out of that backpack and shoot that man 3 times in the chest. Now, this guy is a very high-level security guard who's got one of the highest security levels that you can get in security. So the guy's integrity is above approach, or security shit don't matter. So he goes downstairs and does exactly that. Afterwards, and the programming stated, as soon as you're done, just drop the weapon, and then Dr. Silver goes down there, takes him upstairs, and he goes, "Do you remember what you did?" And the guy goes, "No." And he goes, let me put you under so you understand and remember, what you did. The guy starts getting all emotional. So Dr. Silver quickly brings the guy in to show him that he didn't kill the guy. It was just a staged killing. Okay. The guy gets relieved a little bit, and then all of a sudden just gets this overwhelmed look on his face. What happened is that guy realized that anybody can take him and make him do whatever they want for the rest of his life.
Is that what happened to you?
Yeah, I was about to ask you.
Yeah.
Were you groomed? Were you groomed to be this way?
I know that they weren't able to make me do violent things, but a majority of what I recall at Stanford is ESP things, seeing what was in other rooms,
remote viewing,
all of this bizarre shit. I shit talk Skip Batwood, Mr. fucking remote viewer, on the telephone. I said to him, and I'm fucking saying this on fucking line, so fucker can hear me. I said, I'm the one that fucking was part of that mind control program that created remote viewing. And him and his silver spoon shit, he said, I have remote viewing that's measurable. And I said, well, let's remote view each other. He didn't get anything right about me. I said, you're sitting in an overstuffed fucking love seat that's beige plaid, and you have a beaded fucking cedar on your vaulted ceiling. How'd I do? He paused and said, all right, about 10 seconds later. So Skip Atwood. And I know for a fact that I was in places.
Did you ever hear of anyone being around Montauk or Camp Hero? Did you ever run across anyone, or were you there at any point, or were you mostly on the West Coast?
I know I've been to Montauk. I've been.
Okay. Well, maybe.
Yeah. There's some things I can't talk about because it'll expose other people.
No, fine. I get it.
But I can talk about it around things. So ask me questions about Montauk.
Well,
please.
All right. Well, no, I was kind of intrigued with. Have you heard of Al Bielek or the Bielek brothers? And it has to do with like the Philadelphia experiment a long time ago.
Yes, I can't talk about a little bit about that, but some of the stuff that they're talking about is 100% accurate, is the best way I can put it. And it's got to do with people at Stanford Research Institute and experiments that were going on there, and people that have given me information that could expose them.
Right. And no, I appreciate that. And, I don't mean to ask anything that might get you in trouble. So
it wouldn't get me into trouble, but would expose them. And see, the problem is that me as a child, I never signed anything. But people that were working in secure positions, they signed things where their life can be destroyed by people. I mean, legally destroyed because of them signing away their lives to be part of a nightmarish project.
Right. And ultimately,
and you're talking about a nightmaring project when people end up getting stuck in the middle of 6-inch steel. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. You're talking about the USS Eldridge.
Yes,
but
yes.
We'll leave that one alone for now.
Once again, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. No, I have. Somebody told me something that they were testing the flesh and the metal at SRI after that, because SRI was made in 1947 with these eugenicist people stating, after coming from a conference at MIT, that they wanted to create the West Coast version of MIT. They made it 15 times more powerful through corruption.
Yeah,
because a lot of people think Stanford is this liberal university, when all the people, eugenicists and hate mongers and trying to take over the world, that's the opposite of liberalism.
Right. Yeah, and just briefly back to the Eldridge a little bit. Tesla created some incredible experiments a long time ago that I know you're probably familiar with, but
it was the power base that they used on the Eldridge experiment.
Right. And do you think that he was?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yes, he was.
All right. Just curious, and that doesn't have to go anywhere else.
No, you know how I know is the person who I'm not going to leak information about said that if I gave you anything, if I answered that question, I'd do myself in.
Right. And
so it wouldn't it now here's the way you prove that. All they had to do was say no.
Right.
Why would they answer my question like that? That's the reason why when you ask the right question, if you listen, somebody's answer is a hell of a lot more profound than the words they're using.
Right, exactly. And that's, I have a background in law enforcement and in criminal investigation. And I find that if I just let someone talk without interrupting and asking questions or taking them off,
they'll define their truthfulness.
Right. And and they'll just they'll open up more, and you'll hear little things that they don't really mean to say, but they said it anyway. And
as a business person, I call it, I've never fired somebody in my life. They fired themselves with their actions and behavior.
Right. But no, that's why I don't mind you going into the backstory and the heavy detail. I mean, I want to. This is what makes you and what makes.
Here's the crazy thing is yes, I have heavy detail, but just like a lot of survivors, that victimization, that moment, that room you were in, that you were raped in, you remember. Like, for instance, the reason why I keep saying translucent German skin is because the man raping me had his hand on the back of my head, shoving it into the examination table, so my head kind of turned sideways, and when his right arm would swing forward, the inside of his wrist would expose that translucent skin. So I remember the detail of that, but what happened before that and after that is not as in focus, if that's the best terminology to use.
Sure. And what do you think their end game was in doing this to everyone, or specifically yourself?
The most dangerous. Imagine. Let's go back to the Manchurian Candidate, being able to send that idyllic little woman. She might be an 85-year-old lady, but she's a programmed assassin, that can scale walls and do crazy ass shit. I can do things that somebody as sick as I. Now, would you agree that somebody that's got that's going back and forth from prostate cancer to all my organs growing and doubling in size? I've got an artery that's about to explode and ballooning in my gallbladder. I've got advanced Crohn's. I've got MS. Yet I can get on the Stairmaster behind me and go for 2 or 3 hours at a very high pace. Is that normal?
Not typically, no.
Now, as an adult, I was really talented bicycle racer, and I was excelling. So I thought to myself, they were so talented at getting great effects out of me through hypnosis. So I went to a hypnotist. They gave me a suggestion that if I turned the crank to the beat of the music I was listening to on my headphones, that the pain would go away. Now, I was riding 110 miles, round trip from Woodinville, Washington, up to Snoqualmie Summit and back to Woodinville every day. I was taking 5 and 10 minutes off my time every day. I mean, it was insane. I went back to her. Now, when my mother moved me to Seattle, I thought she was moving me to Seattle to get me away from SRI. It turned out that a few years ago, I ended up finding out that the doctor I had been seeing was Dr. Donaldson at the University of Washington, who was doing the advanced hypnosis programming of active assassins and active agents. So my mother didn't take me away from Stanford. She took me to advanced programming. She didn't. And my mother, just to let everybody know in the background, my mother was blackmailed in. Have you ever heard of a program called Midnight Climax?
I don't think so.
Operation Midnight Climax was run in San Francisco and a number of other cities. And what it was to do was to blackmail key people to force them to do things that the CIA wanted them to do. My mother was a lesbian. The whole San Lorenzo Valley knew it. What happened was my mother was blackmailed into allowing me to be part of this project. Because do I sound like I wouldn't tell my mother every intimate detail about what they were doing to me at Stanford? So on the way home from every one of the torture sessions, my mother started calling me a little liar when I was telling her about what they were doing to me. Most of the time when I was going home, I was higher than a kite on LSD. And not normal retail LSD that people can get now, the super strong stuff that they were using, like the turbocharged version. And so my mother created a storyline that I was a little liar, so nobody would believe all the things I was saying that was happening. So after a short while, I gave up telling people what was going on. And to this day, if I told my family any of this, they wouldn't believe it. But this is what my older brother would go around telling anybody willing to listen, that Mark just wanted to go frolic and have a good time on beach after beach or wherever he's at frolicking playing in. As I was being taken, and
for months
I would
at a time.
Yeah, I mean, explain this to me. See, I have a lot of clarity. I have more questions than answers. How could I be gone months at a time, yet I all of a sudden reappear at my house? My dogs have been fed. All my utilities and rent have been paid. And everything's normal in my house, except now it's not September, it's March. Things like that.
Now, how did you...
Did you ever hear of an airplane that cartwheeled into a cornfield and the pilot saved half the people aboard it? 1989? It was made into a feature film. I ended up calling in a plane crash to King TV News. And the operator said, well, where'd the plane crash? And I said, I don't know. It happens tomorrow. Click. The next day,
I heard about that.
Dozens of news reporters were on my doorstep accusing me of blowing this plane up. Hours later, after they had taken me off of worldwide news, they realized that it was a mechanical failure. All those news reporters didn't come back and apologize for what they did. So just to get back to MKUltra, and that was part of MKUltra, because one of the people that ended up coming to my house that day was a gentleman called Gary Webb. Is the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist that exposed Iran-Contra and MKUltra, and unfortunately got depressed and committed suicide. He shot himself in the head twice.
Oh, not an easy feat.
Yeah. That second shot's a bitch, isn't it? I mean, the aiming thing and the timing, yeah.
Ouch, ouch.
How did you
go ahead.
If you're out,
he was a friend of mine too, and I was who he based most of his information on. Well, not most of his information, but the information I gave him the direction to get the ancillary information I didn't have.
Right.
Which was the bigger picture.
It seems like a lot of people shoot their self in the head twice here lately. There's a lot of that. There's a lot going on.
The problem is, just like I told Gary, you need to have information to protect yourself. And there's a captain in the Army that is my hero. His name is Captain Thompson. Marina knows about this story. You ever hear of My Lai?
I don't think so.
My Lai was when they killed some of our Vietnamese tribal sisters and brothers. Because just like Custer, and the reason why Custer was killed was because Custer 3 days earlier had killed the food supply to the Native Americans that had been attacking him, which was 292 mothers, women, children, and grandfathers and grandmothers. Killed them all. So the tribe went after Custer, and the crazy thing is they had such self-control. General Johnson's company didn't have anything to do with the massacre. So all they did was separate Johnson's company from Custer's company and kill every freaking person in Custer's company for what they did to their family. So that was a trained philosophy trained in the academies to kill your enemy's food supply, which was done again in My Lai, and it wasn't in one village. It was dozens of villages, and it wasn't one day. It was months. And it was covered up by a gentleman that you might know, Captain Colin Powell, covered up the My Lai massacre for the Army. And his reward was a promotion instead of a court-martial. Nixon pardoned Calloway after he got convicted of the massacre. Now, to let you know the nobleness of Captain Thompson, Captain Thompson I met in the Angeles National Forest. The Olympic National Forest. And because he was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder brought to you by Richard Nixon and all of his other cronies that blacklisted him and treated him like, he had herpes. I met him in the forest, and he ended up eventually, when I was bringing him food, he eventually didn't pick up the last food that I had dropped for him and left documents. The reason why they don't fuck with me is those documents are properly stowed on a 72-hour time clock. So those pig fuckers can't play with me. They just try to make sure that I'm secure.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you how
Gary Webb's mistake.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, how do you, with all the documents you have?
SRI sent two guys here 6 days before my girlfriend before Marina's died to probably try to kill me. They ended up, one got choked unconscious and the other one ate a whole bunch of heels to the face. Let's call him Pizza Boy. And it was all recorded by my security cameras and all watched by my late girlfriend, and watched the police do nothing, which were obviously informed to do nothing by those people. And Marina and I drove by Stanford Research Institute, and just driving by the facility made all the security go off in alarm-like fashion. So it's obvious that they're tracking my telephone. So they know anytime I'm getting anywhere near their facility.
Wow.
And she saw the reaction of them running around like cockroaches to daylight. And that's exactly what they are. Since one of the guys there matches the silhouette of the bitch that I choked out. And that should tell you something about me when I can take out two guys that outweigh me by 60 pounds each.
How did you get out, or maybe you're not out, but out of the actual program? Did you free yourself?
The last time they came to take me, is what I'm damn proud of. If somebody threatens your sister, are you going to get on a plane to protect your sister?
Oh yeah.
And so am I.
Oh yeah.
This character came up to me. His name's Brewster, and he went, Louisiana character, and he went, He said, it's time to go fishing. And I said, I ain't taking any more of your fishing trips, because that's obviously what they used to put me under their control. And this is what Brewster said to me. He goes, I took an aerobics class with your sister yesterday, and I hope that bitch fights as much as you do. What he was saying is, you get your ass on this airplane or your sister's dead. Probably after I rape her. I got on that airplane. Marina knows my sister would drive away to protect herself and leave me for the vultures. You know, just to let you know about my sister, her reward for having sex with her gym teacher as a child, and I tried to protect her, was a scholarship, a golf scholarship to the University of Washington, when she had never played golf in her life. That's sort of like the scandal that's going on in America right now about people buying college athletic scholarships, huh?
Yeah, right. Well,
yeah, straight up. And I had the pleasure of being ridiculed by my sister when I would visit her at University of Washington. Why? Because she knew I knew. I went and kicked the shit out of the woman gym teacher at Mercer Island High School that was raping my sister as a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old. I kicked the shit out of her and her husband, who were both having sex with my sister. I wonder why they didn't call the cops. And when my sister 10 years ago called me down to San Diego to make sure that I didn't blow up her blackmailing of this very wealthy lady whose the statute of limitations had run out, but they were blackmailing her because obviously this lady wouldn't want this exposed about her. Well, I didn't sign that contract now, did I? And my sister didn't call up to apologize that she ruined our relationship for this wonderful tryst and all this, the ski time in Switzerland and Yugoslavia and everything else, and the college scholarships. She called up to make sure I didn't blow her blackmail deal. You know, so
Mark,
the content of between her and I are profound, and the rest of my family. And my father was the chief of Lockheed, who worked with the Nazis that were torturing me.
Did you have something, Marina?
Up Against It. Yeah, Up Against It is the movie he wrote, exactly about what happened after he got on that plane.
Exactly. You know, and when I got on, I ended up getting taken down to Honduras after a short period of time because they knew I was too hot. And when Brewster came up and I refused to go until he said something about my sister, I ended up getting on the plane, and I was running the cargo in the back of a C-130 cargo plane, running military equipment back and forth from Mena, Arkansas to Honduras. And after a while, that was too difficult because I refused to do a lot of things. So they end up having me guard a perimeter. Long story short, I ended up being tortured in a hut. And I don't know if you're old enough, but during this entire Iran-Contra thing in Honduras and Nicaragua, the whole nightmare, there's a bay on the Pacific side of Honduras and Nicaragua. It's called the Gulf of Francesca. The CIA got into a lot of trouble because they're trying to get rid of all the damn fishermen that were getting in the way of all of their drug deals. So they ended up putting mines in the Gulf, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, those fishermen didn't like getting blown up, so they complained, and the CIA got into a lot of trouble. Well, I got dumped in that Gulf for dead, and dolphins saved me and pushed me ashore. And I ended up going into the motel right up the beach. And I found an Air Mexico ticket on the nightstand to make it look like I had flown in on an Air Mexico flight, and then a return flight that I never used. They were trying to make me look like a drowned tourist. Brought to you by the CIA.
Wow.
And why? And what was I guarding? I was guarding a cocaine lab in the center. I penetrated that cocaine lab, followed two guys into Nicaragua who assassinated a farm family, posed them for pictures, saw my binocular reflection, and followed my tracks all the way back to the perimeter. And that's the reason why I ended up being tortured. And my late girlfriend found photographs of Ronald Reagan holding up that farm family in pictures at a United Nations speech, accusing the Nicaraguans of human rights violations, and the farm family was assassinated by his CIA.
Wow.
And
there's so much.
Oliver North says that this they brought in $56 million worth of cocaine. Those C-130s were filled to their brim. And just on the flights I was on is $2 or $3 trillion worth of cocaine. So are you telling me Oliver North is so stupid that he would sell through Los Angeles Police Chief Gates, who was a CIA agent, $2 or $3 trillion worth of cocaine for $56 million? You know, it's a bunch of shit. Oliver North said he put 50 some odd million dollars in a shoebox after selling rockets to the Iranians and forgot about it for 3 years when he was making $21,000 a year. Do you buy that?
Not in a
Oliver
second.
North and here's a bitch slap to Oliver North and Princess Blackwater Princess. And I hope you know what I'm talking about.
I think I do.
It's the Blackwater founder. I call him Princess.
Yeah, they've changed names a few times. Triple Canopy.
His name is Prince. His name is Prince.
Right. But yeah, they went from Blackwater to Triple Canopy. They stay in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I've thrown out a benefit, you know, to raise money for some charity, of having Princess and Oliver North be one round after another in an MMA fight. We'll raise millions of dollars. I wonder why they won't do it. I've Twittered them. I've done everything I can. I wonder why fucking SEALs, badass fuckers, are too terrified to get into fucking, an MMA ring with me. Could it be that they know where my skills came from, and my skills are vastly superior to them, and I eat their liver before they hit the fucking ground? I bet you. And here's the reason why I state. Those guys are part of Iran-Contra. Those people made probably a chief sum of money from Iran-Contra. Because here's the question. You want to find out the people that benefited from Iran-Contra? Look at the millionaires list before Iran-Contra and look at the millionaires list afterwards. All those people that popped up out of nowhere, like Princess and all the other ones, should have a lot of government entities start investigating them.
Well, there's a lot we can go down. There's a lot of details, a lot of different rabbit trails we can hit. And it's weird how all of this is connected, isn't it? Everything, all the problems that we have.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah.
Because it's a play. It's you have to realize that Donald Trump is doing a stupid version of the misdirect. He's doing the Forrest Gump version of it. Who's the dangerous person? The person that talks with the soft Texas accent and is nice and warm and cuddly, that'll cut your throat and smile? Or the retarded SOB, which is exactly the same, except he's nuts.
I want to cut us off, but I definitely want to have you back so we can keep digging down some of these trails, if you're okay with that.
100%. You know, you are an impressive young man, and I like people that have knowledge. and that display it in conversation that's cohesive. That's impressive as heck.
Well, I'm not very good at math, so I've got skills in other areas. So,
well, that's the whole mythology of intelligence. Is it turns out that there's over 2,000 different types of IQ tests. You know, if you're in a survival environment, that person that we ridicule on an everyday basis will be the smartest mother bleep in the planet. You know, when it comes to specialized intelligence, I know a lot of rocket scientists that don't know how to put 3 words together.
Right.
You know, so intelligence, the most intelligent person is the person that can take difficult subjects and make common people understand them. And that's certainly not me. That's Mr. Cashin, this person that changed my life as a child.
Yeah.
You know, and it happened by stealing his socket set.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. And I definitely want to have you back for round 2. Like I said, there's going to be a little bit of...
I like your analogy, round 2. The way I bounce off of walls is that's a perfect analogy.
Well, no, it's what it feels like, but I like it because we're gonna bring this around to paint a big picture to an end story.
Hey, dog, wait till this is a television show, and we can hire that. I've gone into the archives in New York City. It's about 30 buildings. So if you don't specialize in working those archives for 30 years, you can only be lucky to run into a document like I did. And that document that I did is, I found the name of Fred Trump on the document. Fred Trump was part of the eugenics movement and made most of his money working for Brown Brothers and Harriman, trading with the Nazis. Does that connect Donald Trump to eugenics and Mkultra? I think it does.
Was he? Now this is just off subject too. Was he his uncle?
No, Fred Trump was his father.
Oh, okay.
Fred Trump I found documents showing that he had been arrested 3 times in New York City. One of them, he was supposed to have been arrested because a black person was killed in the riots. He was now obviously never arrested.
Yeah.
And I think it was because of his Brown Brothers and Harriman juice. And it turns out that there's not enough developments that Fred Trump could have built to amass $600 million that Donald Trump took over in 1970.
Well, the reason I asked was...
So I ended up finding by accident a document showing that he had done at least some trading for Brown Brothers and Harriman with the Germans. So when there's no way, and as a master builder, there's no way Fred Trump made the money he made in development. He made it being a crony for Harriman.
Well, have you heard the theory that I think it was Trump's uncle, and I can't think of his name, but he was
the scientist.
Yeah, he directly took a lot of Nikola Tesla's, or he acquired it, you know, at the end.
He stole. And you know when he stole?
That was a nice way of saying acquire.
He was part of the hoodwink when Tesla was killed, too.
Okay, I was wondering if you'd heard that.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I know a great deal about that because here's a reality check. Scientists that are getting old, they want to tell the truth to somebody.
Yeah.
Because they feel immensely guilty when their science has been used for dastardly means, when they had tunnel vision going into their science and they were too fucking stupid to realize that evil people can use good science for evil.
Right.
And I'm specifically talking about Oppenheimer. And Marina has heard me talk around Oppenheimer a number of times. I met Oppenheimer once through the scientists from SRI.
Well, Maybe that'll be round 3. So we've got a lot to talk about.
Well, I don't know that much about Oppenheimer.
Okay.
But to me, he's the most evil fucker on the planet.
Yeah, I've heard of some things. So, but man,
self-reflection after the fact is hindsight.
Yeah.
All his Sanskrit enlightenment after he fucking puts the planet on the course of destruction, to me is you should have fucking thought about that a little while ago.
Right.
And that's that tunnel vision I'm talking about. That's why we're where we are right now. It turns out Shell Oil in the 40s knew the environmental catastrophes they're creating that our children are going to be paying for.
Right.
We should be damn proud of ourselves. There's a young lady that impressed the hell out of me at the United Nations last week, by the way. Bless you, and I'll stop talking.
Well, no, it's been a very interesting hour, and I do want to have you back, and we're going to dissect some of this if you're willing. And
I would be absolutely honored. And Marina will tell you that I only surround myself with people that are the people that I want to become, that work hard, that have patience, and don't give up.
Right. Well, I appreciate you guys, and thank you for coming on. And we will talk about this. We'll unpack a little more later, and we'll kind of bring this all around. This may take 3 or 4 parts, but we can unpack it and bring it all back around for kind of like the big reveal, I guess, at the end. And
absolute honor. And absolute honor.
But yeah, man, it's great.
Especially for one of my brothers.
Oh yeah.
Especially for one of my brothers.
I appreciate that. And it was great meeting you, Mark. And
blessings.
You too, Marina. Sorry, I know it's so late in South Africa, but we'll try this again earlier. Maybe in a couple of weekends, we'll do it earlier in the day so you can not fall asleep on us.
Stop yawning. Thank you, Paul. I told you I'm a night owl. It's fine.
Well, all right. Thank you, guys, and I hope good luck with everything, and keep in touch. If you got my information, if you need something, just give me a call.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. And that's a wrap on this episode of Mysterious Huntsman Podcast. I'd like to thank Marc Victor and Marina Louw from both sides of the world for coming on and telling me their incredible story, and I hope to have them back on again. I know Mark's got a lot to say and a lot to tell us regarding everything about the Mkultra mind control. I just hope he stays safe and a lot of stuff that he's delving into and digging into. So, all right, well, that's a wrap, guys. And remember, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, don't hesitate to hit me up at mysteriousHuntsman@gmail.com or go to my webpage, mysteriousHuntsman.com. Thanks, guys. Have a great week, and we will talk soon.